Hey, how's it going everyone? Today we're looking at the Ramones self-titled debut. This is the first record released in 1976 by New York punk band Ramones, one of the greatest pioneers of punk music and rock music in general. The Ramones formed in 1974. That's consisted of Joey Ramone, aka Jeffrey Hyman, on lead vocals. We got Johnny Ramone, aka John Cummings, on guitar. Dee Ramone, Douglas Colvin, on bass guitar and vocals. And lastly, we have Tommy Ramone, who is Thomas Erdely, on drums. Together they formed the band Ramones, which is a band that developed a new style to their rock music that was super unpolished, blunt, and rebellious. This sound was a huge departure from the high production music at the time, whether that be the Pink Floyd, the Queen, the Aerosmith. The sound was quickly borrowed by many other musicians and bands, and many people would come to associate the Ramones to be one of the initiators of the punk explosion in the 70s, being the first band to do what they did. Although that is true, it is important to know that the Ramones didn't invent punk music. Garage rock and proto-punk did exist before. However, they certainly solidified it as the sound we associate to punk today. Without the Ramones, we wouldn't have bands like The Wire, The Clash, and the Sex Pistols. The punk landscape would have been completely different had the Ramones not dropped this album right here, the one that started it all. So yeah, for sure a very important album, and let's just get into the thoughts. The Ramones self-titled project is not one with many complexities. It's a relatively simple record as there are no solos nor any abstract narrative picture. Rather, it's a collection of concise and catchy rock songs that do a great job of encapsulating 70s rebel culture. On top of that, every piece of instrumentation here has their own separate values and important roles, and they're all just executed very perfectly. The drumming is on beat, the guitar is in sync, overall the entire instrumental side is just done very well here. Some standouts that display this include songs Beat on the Brat and Now I Wanna Sniff Some Glue. Beat on the Brat has some great drumming, making great use of the hi-hats specifically. Meanwhile, the guitar and bass is just perfectly in sync. It all comes together to get this grimy sounding rock tune. On the track Now I Wanna Sniff Some Glue, there is this middle section where a second guitar picks up and is giving the track so much intensity. The timing of every instrument there in that little part is just so well done. Is generally one of my biggest highlights of this entire album, and I only wish for that part to be a little longer as it was way too short. Unfortunately, the lower budget production was not nearly great enough to reflect the masterful instrumentals. Due to the initial underground studio sessions the Ramones used to record this album, the guitar and drums were just not sharp nor loud enough to my liking. The Ramones at the time weren't a musical phenomenon just yet, so the recording of this album is much more lo-fi and stripped back as a result. Albums released by the Ramones later on have moved on to a more punching and rich production sound, whether that be Rocket to Russia and Road to Ruin. This self-titled album is like the only one with this type of production, and it's really a shame because this is such a revolutionary record here. Back to the instrumental side, some of the songs are kind of sharing the same pace and rhythm, kind of making all of them sound similar to each other. With that being said, however, I never was really bored throughout the album. The speed of it all just had me on the edge of my seat the entire time. So now let's move on to the vocal side of this self-titled debut. We have Joey Ramones on the singing, and here he provides us with a unique leading role, because rather than singing, it feels like Joey is yelling these lyrics like he is really trying to nail his words into your mind. In the times where Joey is giving us a quieter vocal delivery, he does it in a way that kind of sounds like the words are hurting him almost. On the verses of the song Beat on the Brat, Joey sounds like he is holding back a lot of pain. It almost sounds like he just finished crying before entering the studio. What I also love about this song is the pitch buildup. By giving the verses a hesitating vocal delivery, he then pumped that up in the pre-chorus, and in the chorus, Joey was finally able to fully yell, "What can you do?" This gives the song a lot of ups and downs, and it's kind of just a roller coaster to go through. Joey also uses additional harmonies that accompany his own singing, like on the song Judy is a Punk and I Wanna Be Your Boyfriend. In my opinion, this inclusion is really what sets this album apart sonically from the other punk records that will be released later on. If there's one complaint I have on the singing, that would probably be on the end of the song Chainsaw. I just didn't like the way he said, "oh yeah." It just sounds like he's drunk almost. The audio quality is pretty fucking bad for some reason, and they also chose to use the same clip of him saying "oh yeah" and just repeat it. This part only lasts 10 seconds long, so it's like really little, but I just feel the need to point it out, just, you know, saying that Joey has his misses at times on this album. But otherwise, Joey Ramone is, you know, doing a really iconic role here and is pretty much the perfect voice you want for an album like this. The album is blunt, and to match that, he's loud and dramatic whenever he needs to be. I know I said that I was never bored throughout the album, and although that is true to an extent, I did find myself longing for some type of switch up during the last few songs of this album. This record definitely started stronger than it finished. Most of the songs I still revisit are on the forefront of this record. The first 3 tracks specifically are just straight up timeless classics. I also wanted for a song to be longer than 2 minutes and 30 seconds by that point. Near the back end, it just feels like I'm getting thrown with one song and then another and then another and then another, and I'm like, just give me a solid one, yo. But let's go on to my favorite and least favorite tracks. And for my favorite, there are many contenders that could be it, but I'm probably gonna have to go with the song Judy is a Punk. The song to me is just everything 70s punk should be, only paired with additional vocal harmonies that sound just as amazing. My least favorite track on this album is gonna have to be Chainsaw. The song is great, it's just the last part that I have a few problems with. I think is a little silly and a little cringeworthy. So to wrap it all up, the Ramones self-titled displayed an amazing array of speedy riffs with a bold singing bit. And if there's one big thing I can commend this band achieving on this album, that would be consistency. Every track had at least one good guitar riff or vocal bit that gives it value, which makes it special. That is something that's pretty hard to tackle when it comes to regular bands, as there would always be, you know, a few weak links there that just drags the album down, but for this album I can't say that's the case. I'm pleased to say that there aren't really any tracks on this album that I can really dislike, except maybe the end of Chainsaw, but still, overall, the song Chainsaw, I still enjoyed. This album is also packed with replayability, although I do wish every song here could be extended just by a little bit. And then to be the cherry on top, this album definitely has its generational impact that is still being felt, and we will continue to feel as the punk rock scene progresses. I would love this album so much more, however, if the production was more refined, which overall is just really a shame. I am gonna give the Ramones self-titled a 7.6. Yeah, so that's it for the review. Comment down below what y'all want me to do next. Comment down below if you love this album. Did you hate it? Did I rate it too high? Did I rate it too low? And have a good one, you guys.